Okay, it is 6:36 p.m. So let's go ahead and get the public meeting started. Oh, now we're starting to get a whole bunch more. Of course, as soon as I say that. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Jim, can you start to progress to the next slide, please?
Sure.
All right, thank you, everyone. This is the virtual public meeting for the 33-161 Post Road Interchange Upgrade Project. Go ahead, Jim. Thank you so much, everyone who has signed in for this meeting tonight and for taking time out of your very busy days to be with us tonight. I am Jeannie Willis. I am the engineering manager for transportation for the city of Dublin, and I serve as the city's project manager for the subject interchange. You might recognize my name from the invitation that you probably received in the mail. Tonight, we are happy to share with you for the plans for the project, making this a safer, more efficient, and inviting interchange. As you may know, this project has been in the works for many years, and we have been steadily making progress towards the construction of these improvements that are the focus of tonight's meeting. We have a complete funding plan and are expecting to break ground in 2022. Now, I'd like to introduce a few local officials and members of our project team, each making this project possible. Dublin Vice Mayor Kathy DeRosa is joining us tonight, and we appreciate Dublin City Council's support for the project. We also have City Manager Dana McDaniel joining us remotely, and Deputy City Manager, Chief Operating Officer Megan O'Callahan. Steve Fellinger with the Ohio Department of Transportation, or ODOT, is the project manager for the state. Janice Gartner with ODOT is the Environmental Project Manager. Tammy Boring, also with ODOT, is the Real Estate Administrator. From the Union County Engineer's Office, Jeff Stouch, the County Engineer, and Bill Narducci, the Assistant County Engineer, are here with us. Jim Dipple with Burgess & Eichel is the Project Manager for the design team, and you will be hearing many details of the project from him tonight. Jim will also introduce one of his team members during the meeting to cover the environmental aspect of the project. Lindsay Weisenauer is the city's Public Affairs Officer and tonight's live event moderator. I'll hand the meeting over to Lindsay now, and she will explain to us how to send comments during and after the meeting. Thanks, Lindsay.
Thank you, Jeannie, and welcome to everyone who is joining us for our virtual meeting tonight. And I'm going to tell you how to submit feedback. Jim, if you can go to the next slide. You all should be joining us from the city's website, and right underneath the video box where you're seeing the live stream, there is a a section where you can say submit a public comment. Once you click submit public comment, an online form will appear in which you can type your question or comment, and you can use that throughout the meeting. So you're not limited to just one comment or question. You will have to refresh between submissions if you would like to submit more than one. And we will be collecting these questions and comments throughout the meeting and then addressing them after the presentation. At that time, I will be reading the comments and questions aloud. And then, Jim, we do have some ground rules that we just wanted to remind everyone, because this is a public meeting. This meeting will be recorded, is in fact being recorded right now. All comments are public record. Please keep comments and concerns relevant to this project and specific as possible to be respectful of everyone's time. When submitting comments or concerns, please keep them respectful. Comments using demeaning, derogatory, or inflammatory language will not be responded to. The moderator, myself in this case, will be receiving the public comments in real time as they are submitted, and I will read them aloud during a question and answer period at the conclusion of the presentation. There may be some instances in which we will respond to questions in writing following the meeting if we don't have adequate time to answer or if we need to gather some further information. And at the conclusion of this meeting, or at any time, we also will be accepting written comments. We will come back and show you this again at the end of the meeting, and it's also on the webpage that you should be looking at. But you can submit written comments to the Dublin City Engineer, and those should be postmarked no later than September 25th. And at this time, I will turn it over to Jim Bickle. Again, he is the Senior Project Engineer with Burgess and Nipel, and he will be providing an update on the project and the design at this point. Jim.
Okay, thank you, Lindsay. Appreciate it. Just to start out, I want everybody to know that this project is really a joint effort between the City of Dublin, Union County, and ODOT. About half of the project is located in unincorporated Union County and half in Dublin. And of course, both of the highways are under the jurisdiction of ODOT District 6, headquartered up in Delaware, Ohio. This interchange, as you know, serves a very rapidly growing area, a very diverse development. Highland Croy, we have lots of residential development coming in. Of course, the retail and commercial areas along 161, Industrial Parkway, and obviously the educational center of the OU campus and Columbus State, located just southwest of the interchange. Congestion and safety have always been a big concern for this area for many years. We're currently exceeding design capacity by at least 200%. We know that more than 65,000 vehicles use this interchange every day, and that includes about 7,600 trucks. And with the new FedEx facility coming in up on Industrial Parkway, that should go up another 7%, and will also include a substantial number of additional trucks. With all of the improvements that the city's already made over the last 12 years or so out here, including relocation of Industrial Parkway, 3 roundabouts have been constructed, a 4th will be coming soon over at Cosgray Road in 161. Point being, the city's made a lot of progress so far in providing what we would call a complete traffic solution for this area that works for the whole area. And this interchange project then is really the final big step of making that all work together. Just some history and current conditions, a little background. The current interchange that's out there now was constructed in the late 1960s. I think it was open in either 69 or 70. It's a standard rural diamond interchange, which was adequate 50 years ago when it was way out in the country. But obviously today it's way under capacity. Since this project has developed through a long process, it's gone for many, many years, we wanted to share and kind of review a timeline with everyone, particularly for folks that are newer to the area and may not know the history. Interchange studies for this project really began about 20 years ago. And it was determined fairly early on that the entrance to post-preserved subdivision would have to move due to state design standards for interchanges. And that's a very important factor in this project. And we're going to discuss that in much more detail in just a minute. But getting through the timeline here. So in the early 2000s up through 2006, particularly, there were 5 public meetings to discuss alternatives for the relocation of that post-preserved entrance. So there was a very, very heavy collaborative sessions going on in those meetings to work out what the best solution would be. So based on comments from the residents, we were able to, it was refined down to 2 alternatives, and then a final alternative ultimately was chosen and approved by the council. In 2008, the post-preserve entrance design was actually done at about the same time that the interchange design was being done. And during that 2008-2009 period, 2 more public meetings were held with the post-preserve folks to basically to develop and refine the actual features of the new entrance, what it was going to look like. Unfortunately, construction of the interchange project was held back about that point due to a funding gap, but construction did proceed on pieces of it in phases. I wanted to share that with you a little bit. The first phase was actually a relocation of Liggett Road in 2008. Hopefully you can see my cursor on the screen there. Liggett Road was down here and it tied in by Highland Croy, and it was in conflict with the proposed new interchange ramps here. So Liggett was relocated over to this Post Road intersection to make a 4-way intersection. The next phase was relocation of Industrial Parkway to the west, and that was done in 2010. Industrial Parkway was in line with Eiderman Road here, as you may recall if you've lived here for a while. And it was relocated away from the interchange and then curves back in. And then, of course, the 2 roundabouts that were constructed with that. 161 was also widened and improved during that project. And then phase 3 was construction of the large roundabout at Eiderman Road, which is right here. So that brings us back to the final phase, which is what we're talking about tonight, and that's the reconstruction of the interchange itself. And that reconstruction has a number of components. First, it includes reconstruction and widening of State Route 161 and Post Road from Eiderman to Liggett. So from the east side of the Eiderman roundabout all the way down to Liggett Post, that will all be reconstructed there. It'll also actually include some revisions to this existing roundabout is going to be part of the project to make it function a little better with the interchange and with the new ramp that's coming in from the north. Another major part of this project is construction of new ramps. All the ramps will be new. The off ramps will be new. The on ramps will be loop ramps now. These loop ramps enable us to eliminate signalized 2 intersections down here on 161, reducing left turn conflicts and improving traffic flow and safety. Also, US33 will be resurfaced for the entire length of the project limits here. And in keeping with Dublin's, typical high standards for appearance, there will be some extensive beautification of the interchange along with this. You can see in the diagram here, this is just one of the loop ramps. I didn't show it all, but these are very large areas here. So there's going to be use of a lot of ornamental grasses to reduce the amount of mowing that has to be done out there. There's going to be some mounding, and you can see how a lot of the features, the softscape and hardscape, are curved, and that's to complement the curves of the interchange ramps for that sizable infield space. The types of trees will be quite varied. And that's partly for shape and color, but also too, just to prevent any possibility of major loss in the event that there's, an unexpected disease or an insect problem, like the ash borer or something like that. So variety is very good. There'll also be evergreens incorporated also, so there will be some wintertime form and color. And last but not least, the US33 overpass bridges will be completely replaced as well with this project. The US33 is only being resurfaced. It will remain 4 lanes like it is now, but the bridge, since we're reconstructing the bridge in anticipation of future widening of US33, the bridge will be constructed with 6 lanes. It'll be striped that you're only using the 4 lanes, but those extra 2 lanes to the inside will already be there for the future when the widening does someday occur. And there will be significant aesthetic enhancements to the bridge, providing what we hope to be a nice gateway for both Dublin and Union County. It'll be a little bit different than a lot of the other overpass bridges in Dublin. It'll have a more of a clean, kind of contemporary look with this thin white arch across the span. But the ribbon walls that you see extending out are still also going to incorporate some more of the traditional looking Dublin stone. So right-of-way obviously is a big part of any major project like this, right-of-way acquisition. But the good news on this project is that all of the right-of-way was purchased by the city back in 2008 before the project was delayed, except for one parcel located along the westbound off-ramp. There have been some changes to the design since 2008. The original design had a roundabout at Highland Croy and Post Road and the ramp terminal. That is now going to be a signalized intersection. And because of that, there is a parcel that is going to require some additional right-of-way. But again, the good news on that one is that it's a piece of property that the city of Dublin owns. So it's not going to affect any private property owners there. And Dublin will be able to dedicate that for the project at no cost. So there will also be a small number of temporary construction easements that will need to be acquired for some of those areas where there's just a little extra room needed to construct the project, but not needed to maintain in the future. So on completion of the project, those will be restored and they'll be returned back to the property. I'm going to introduce now Rick Fitch. He's our environmental specialist at Burgess & Nyepel, and he's going to run through this slide on the environmental requirements for the job. You there, Rick?
Thank you, Jim. Yeah, basically, we've been studying the environmental attributes of this area since we started the environmental process back in the early 2000s. For this portion of the project, ecologically, we'll have one impact to the South Fork of Indian Run, and that's going to be due to having to extend the culvert that carries the Indian Run under 33 to allow for the relocation of the ramp. As Jim mentioned, as part of the studies, we had to look at all the properties that were adjacent to the project to see what noise levels the different properties which are considered sensitive, which are mainly in this area residential, that are outside of the project footprint. And there is one property within this project limits that will exceed 65 decibels. And that one property is the farmhouse at the corner of Highland Croy and Post Road intersection. And that property will exceed with or without the project. So that's kind of an important aspect to look at, that with or without the project, that property would still be impacted at the design year, which is in 2042. Because this is an individual house, ODOT has looked at many instances like this, and because of the gap that has to occur in the wall to allow access to the property, we just cannot get noise abatement for that property. So there will be no noise abatement as part of this project. We also talked that there's still one property that they do have to acquire a strip take from. That one has been studied, and there's no concern with that property. As with any ODOT project, we also have to look at if there's any hazardous waste or material concerns within the project limits. And for this project, there were no hazardous waste or material concerns. In addition, we also had done investigation for historic and archaeological resources within the footprint of the project. And again, there were no resources found within the project. As Jim mentioned, this project has gone through several phases, and during each of those phases, an environmental document has been prepared to show that the project does not have impacts to the environment or major impacts. And this will be the fourth update that's been done to the original categorical exclusion, which is what the environmental clearance document is called. And so we anticipate to have that finished sometime early this fall. With that, I'll turn it back over to Jim.
Okay, thanks, Rick. Appreciate it. Okay, well, that brings us back to a very important subject, and that's post-preserved neighborhood. I think as we're all aware, the project requires relocation of the post road entrance to the subdivision over to a new location on Highland Croy Road. The locating and the configuration of this new entrance was really a collaborative effort over a couple of years with extensive public and neighborhood involvement. The location shown here is the one that was selected from several alternatives as the best solution. We realize, and the city realizes, that this represents a really big change, particularly for those of you that live in the southern portion of the neighborhood. So it's important to review why this change is necessary. And basically, it all boils down to something called limited access right-of-way, or as we often call it in the industry, the LA. The Ohio Revised Code gives ODOT the authority and responsibility of setting standards for the use of limited access right-of-way. And those standards require for this type of interchange, those standards require that no intersection be located within 600 feet of a ramp. So in the early years of the project development, ODOT let us know that this rule would apply and must apply, and that it would also preclude a right in, right out due to its proximity to both the ramp and the post road. And also on the exhibit here, the area marked additional access restriction. It comes from rules set forth in ODOT's access management manual, and also just from sound traffic engineering. Bottom line is that Post Preserve Boulevard couldn't be relocated to the east because it would be too close to the Post Road intersection. So traffic-wise, it was a no-go. Really, from an engineering and a drainage standpoint too, it would have been very difficult, very problematic to try to move the roadway over in that direction. This is just kind of a boil down of the schedule we looked at earlier. Just wanted again to kind of summarize, there were 5 meetings in 2006 to develop an alternative for the new entrance, and then 2 more meetings in 2008 and 2009 that occurred during the final design of the entrance, just to work out with the residents the details of the entrance. And this is an enlargement of the exhibit we saw a few frames back. I just wanted to make sure I point out that you would understand that along with the boulevard style entrance, Highland Croy will also be tapered and widened so that there'll be a designated left turn and a designated right turn lane to make things work smoothly and improve the safety of the intersection. So just getting into the design of the entrance in a little more detail then. Obviously, beautification was a real key element for the design of this entrance. The goal was to maintain just the upscale standard of the neighborhood and also to try to meet or exceed what you have currently on Post Road at that entrance. Again, this design was developed, with extensive input from residents through a process that involved, many public meetings, like I mentioned before. And a number of different plant materials were vetted for this, different uses of fencing and so on, stone fences as opposed to, rail fences and that kind of thing. So just kind of reviewing a little bit of the details here. This is Highland Croy, obviously, and this is the new Post Preserve Avenue. These street trees were chosen as American elm. Here's a picture of a Princeton American elm. This is obviously taken in the fall, so it has some nice fall color there. These Sargent cherry trees were actually selected to frame the entrance on each side. That's the sort of curvilinear layout here. And then in the beds, there were a number of different selections. I think yews were looked at, but boxwoods kind of won out as the preferred shrub. There's ornamental grasses, the use of perennials for added color and lower maintenance. Another key feature here, you can see there's a little square right there, Those are pedestals, stone pedestals that will match the ones that are out at Post Road right now with the bronze plaque. And then a special part of this is dry laid stone wall. And they're the same on both sides. This is a dry laid stone wall that curves through the landscaping. This starts low and kind of gains elevation as you come around the curve. And then along the sidewalks, parallel to the walks on both sides, you have a straight dry laid stone wall with the bookend tops on it. Here we go. So these elevation views renderings were also done. So you can see here, this is looking in from Highland Crow. You can see the pedestals with the brass plaques. In the side view, you can see the stone walls coming up kind of behind the pedestals. And then when we get to the sidewalk, we have this nice kind of more formal dry laid stone wall with the bookends on top. The dry laid stone walls really kind of have a stately look, really. A lot of people would consider it an upgrade, I think, from the rail fences that you see down at the Post Road entrance. Okay, maintenance of traffic during construction. Traffic will be maintained at all times on US33, 161, and Post Road. Traffic will also be maintained on Eiderman and Highland Croy roads, except for one full closure each for a short period of time. The maintenance traffic plans are still being worked on and finalized, revised from before, but it will be a 4-phase plan that will coordinate, the opening and closing of ramps and so on and so forth as they're constructed, so that traffic will be maintained in all directions. Also the bridge, the bridge will be constructed in stages so that at least one lane of traffic will be moving in each direction during the entire construction process. At least 1 week prior to any major phase change, lane change, or closures, there will be notice, 1 week prior notice. And obviously Post Preserve Boulevard will stay open to Post Road until the new entrance on Highland Croy is ready, and will be the new entrance. The construction is in 2003. Just to give everybody, the city worked hard for many years putting together the funding package for this project. And so just to give everybody a quick idea of what that looks like. As you can see in the chart there, The City of Dublin has the largest piece of the pie. There's also a significant amount of money coming through ODOT track funding. That's state and federal money that's selected by a panel of ODOT and other officials led by the ODOT director. Also through MORPC, there's a significant amount of federal funds there. So that kind of gives you an idea of the breakdown of the funding for the project. And then just a quick schedule update. As Rick mentioned, the environmental document is being completed right now, so that's 2020. We're updating and finalizing the design plans now, so we're working on that now, and that should be finished up next spring, 2021. Right-of-way acquisition should begin towards the end of this year, and then we'll continue into 2021 and should be complete by late summer, early fall. And then interchange construction itself will start in probably late spring 2020, and will go 2 to 2.5 years. So it'll be complete by fall of 2024. And in the context of that, the Post-Preserve Avenue construction at the Highland Croy Road is planned for 2023. So once that's open, then the contractor on the interchange project will go over, and then he will do the disconnection over there at Post Road. So that is the end of the presentation. I will hand it back to Lindsay or Jeannie for next steps and conclusion.
Actually, Jim, if you could go back to the question slide. At this time, we would like to take questions and comments from the public. We already have a handful of questions and comments that have been submitted. If you are watching and would like to participate, underneath the viewer there on the website, there is a comment form. You just click submit public comment, and you should be able to fill out a form, and the question will come right to my email, and I will read it here for the meeting so that one of our panelists can answer the questions. So first of all, we have a question, and a lot of these are for you, Jim. Great presentation there. Thank you for all of that information, and we will now proceed to some of the questions that we have gotten. And our first question, and I do apologize if I mispronounce anyone's name, the first is from Susan Swite, or Susan Swit, and she says she's worried about multi-use. It would be terrific to safely bike from Avery Muirfield to Columbus State, but it is so dangerous right now, especially at night. Jim, would you like to address that for us, please?
That is a good question, and I did not mention that in the presentation. This project includes a multi-use path that will connect both sides of the interchange. It'll go under it'll cross the intersection at the signal at Highland Croy if you're coming from the east. It'll go along State Route 161 under the new overpasses, and then it gets over to the other side. It will cross one of the ramps there with a full signalized crossing at that ramp, and then continue on over. It'll go through the splitter islands of the current roundabout on the far side. So that is the plan, to connect both sides of the interchange with a shared use path.
Thank you, Jim. And Susan, we hope that answered your question. Once again, you're not limited to one question or comment. If you want to participate again, you'll just have to refresh your browser and you'll be able to submit an additional comment or question. Our next question is from Brent Bainum. And he says, I think the original design years ago had a traffic circle at the Highland Croy Post Road Exchange. Will there be an updated traffic study performed for Highland Croy as a result of this update? Thanks. And Jim, if you'd like to address that, please.
That intersection, traffic study was done for that intersection, I'm going to say last year when we started getting back into the original design. It was actually scheduled to be a roundabout there, and but working with ODOT, that intersection. They were not comfortable with having a large roundabout there. As I mentioned earlier in the presentation, the roundabout at Eiderman Road is a large 3-lane roundabout. And with this project, we're actually going to put it on a diet and make some changes to it to reduce its size somewhat. And so ODOT was not comfortable with having another large roundabout at that intersection. So it was decided to go to a traffic signal. And yes, that traffic signal has been designed to accommodate the designated traffic that was just updated through ODOT earlier this year. So it is current. The design is current.
Thank you, Jim. Our next question is from Sky Malcolm, who says, how would traffic be disrupted during the construction phase of this proposed project, both on US33 and on Post Road? Also, how would pedestrians, bicycles, and other vulnerable road users be impacted by this project once completed? Thank you.
Well, I think to answer the second part of the question, as I explained on the earlier question, the pedestrian and shared use path facilities are part of this project. But I think pedestrians, we've made a lot of effort and we're making a lot of that they will be accommodated quite well here. And now during construction, maintenance of traffic during construction, as I said, traffic will be maintained in all the areas of the project. Obviously, any construction project, it's not going to be pretty all the time. So you can certainly expect some congestion. Some people obviously will find other ways to go. So yes, there is certainly expect congestion during the project, but traffic will be maintained in all directions.
Thanks, Jim. We have another question that I think you may have addressed, but I will read it and please let me know if you have anything to add. This is from Bill Marek regarding multimodal access. Although I mostly ride in rural areas for safety, I also ride on errands and shopping. I find this area very dangerous. I hope the plan gives this more access for bicyclists. Students taking classes at Columbus State/Ohio University campus need access. Not every student has a car, not everyone can drive. This is a concern for safety and equity.
Yeah, I appreciate the question. Actually, I'm an avid cyclist myself, and the way the interchange is right now, I don't think I would go anywhere near it. But yeah, like I said before, with the installation of the new signalized intersection at Highland Croy and that ramp, the revisions to the roundabout at Eiderman, and the construction of the shared use path going all the way through the intersection with signalized crossings. Yeah, that's the whole point of that part of the project, is to make this as pedestrian friendly as possible. So it will be much, much better, much easier to navigate once the work is done. I'll certainly ride on it myself. I won't have any problem at all.
Thanks, Jim. Our next question is from Kumar Vermuri, who would like to know the impact of this project to Post Preserve neighborhood main entrance. Also, what is the timeline for the change of the entrance? If you could address that again for us.
Okay. Yeah, as we said during the presentation, the entrance off of Post Road will be closed permanently with the construction of this project. But before that happens, the new connection will be constructed out to Highland Croy Road. So the Highland Croy connection is scheduled to be constructed in 2023. So that construction will be a separate contract, but it will be going on concurrently with the interchange project. So in the end of 2023, when that new connection is complete, then the existing entrance will be closed.
Thank you, Jim. And our next question, and I think we may have addressed this, but if you could reiterate, this is from Matthew Petchin. Is there a reason the intersection at Highland Croy was changed from a traffic circle to a light?
Yeah, it was a lot of that had to do with input from ODOT. One of the proposals was to build a smaller roundabout initially that could then be expanded to a 3-lane roundabout in the future to handle, you know, the 2042 traffic volumes. But ODOT was not, from their experiences, they were not comfortable with ever needing a 3-lane roundabout there. And again, you know, the city has had some issues with the 3-lane roundabout at Eiderman. So just based on that input, it was decided to remove that and go ahead with a traditional traffic signal.
Right, and this is Jeannie Willis, and I just wanted to jump in on this part of the conversation as well. Thank you so much for that question. It's an excellent question, and it was also the City of Dublin's decision to change that from the roundabout to the traffic signal. We felt that it was a better traffic solution here, particularly given the traffic volumes and the off-ramp location and the complexity of the roundabout that was going to be required. We felt that the traffic signal really provided a safer and more amenable solution that our residents and our traveling public could easily understand and quickly understand.
Yeah, thanks, Jeannie. Well put.
Thank you.
Okay, our next question, and I believe this one might be directed toward Rick Fitch. This is from Krista Raghavan. Thank you for the information and the opportunity to ask questions. Is wildlife taken into consideration as part of this project? Habitat loss and collision mitigation are concerns of mine. I appreciate that it is being designed to need less mowing for the benefit of the environment and also the budget. Thank you.
Yeah, I think based on the materials that are currently out there, the habitats are very limited within the existing interchange because so much of the area is maintained and cut grass. So there's very little impact to habitat in the area. We've also tried to enhance the appearance of the area as Jim went through with the landscape that's going to be done. Unfortunately, this at one time was a rural area and there is a lot of wildlife in the area. But as far as taking out large tree lines, things like that, this project will not be doing that. Matter of fact, if anything, it will help clean up some of the invasive species that have taken over in some of the ditches along the interchange. I hope that answered the question.
Thank you, Rick. I hope that answered the question as well. And just for anyone who happens to be just joining us now, I wanted to remind everyone that there is a button underneath the video to submit a public comment. If you have already submitted one and would like to submit another comment or question, just refresh your browser and you will have the ability to do so. Jeannie, we have a couple more questions regarding the traffic light at Highland Croy. And I just wanted to have you reiterate that because I know it's important to a lot of the people listening and joining us tonight. So from Matthew, who asks, is there going to be a light at Post Preserve Avenue and Highland Croy? And just so that Vikrant Mastoli knows that he's asking the same question, will there be a traffic signal at Highland Croy and the new entrance to Post Preserve community? A traffic signal will be needed to get onto Highland Croy from Post Preserve while traveling south. If you could address those questions, please.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much. Thank you for the question. It's a great question. Currently, when the Post Preserve entrance is relocated to Highland Croy, it will be a stop condition for Post Preserve Boulevard. In 2023, we are scheduled to undertake design of a roundabout for that future intersection of Post Preserve Boulevard and Highland Croy. We are going to be watching that intersection very carefully for safety concerns and to see how it operates and we will adjust our plans accordingly to ensure that the future situation, the future condition, is the word I'm looking for, is the best position we can put our residents in.
Thank you, Jeannie. And our next question, I'll direct to you, Jim. This is from Rob Honor. Why is the south portion of the new access road an intersection at Springview Lane versus a curve similar to Stillhouse Lane? Can this be changed? Also, what is the plan for the portion of Post Preserve Boulevard that exits to Post Road?
Yeah, I'm not totally sure I understood the first part of the question. I mean, the configuration of Stillhouse and Springview coming together in the middle and then out to Highland Croy. That was one of quite a number of different alternatives that were, reviewed and vetted, and that was the one that was found to be the best solution at the time. It also reflects, that vacant property that these streets are coming across is developable property, and that layout that we have there also, it's not exactly like, but it also reflects early planning of the subdivision that was done prior to, when I was involved on the project. But so it is what we're showing is in keeping with future plans for the development of that area.
So, and can I jump in here again real quick?
Yeah, please.
Thank you. So one of the reasons why that intersection is shown the way, or that the roadway extension is shown the way that it is to make sure that we do not impact any one street in the Post Preserve neighborhood with more traffic than what it's currently used to seeing. So we tried to make sure that there was not a direct route from Highland Croy into the Post Preserve neighborhood, and not making it a direct connection. So those intersections, we don't want that roadway to become, or that neighborhood to become, a cut-through neighborhood. So adding these stops and turns helps to mitigate those types of impacts and discourages folks who don't live in the neighborhood from just using that neighborhood to get further to points further east, and keeping them on the arterial roadway system where we want them to be.
Yeah, I know one of the early alternatives that was looked at, I know I've seen, was Stillhouse just being brought straight out to Highland Croy. And I know a lot of residents were negative about that alternative for exactly what Jeannie said. It was a straight shot, and it looked like it would be a speed problem for sure. So this layout has a nice sort of more traffic calming effect.
Thanks, Jim. We do have a question from Dennis Acosta asking what's included in each phase and what is the time frame for each phase. Dennis, we are going to be reviewing next steps at the end of this presentation, if that's what you mean. If that's not what you mean, or we don't answer your question at the conclusion of this meeting, please go ahead and submit another comment with a little more detail so that we can better address what it is that you're asking about the phases. And the next question will be for Jeannie from Dennis Hoffer, asking what is the one parcel that the city of Dublin has not acquired?
Okay. Okay, I have to chuckle a little bit because it's your property, Dennis, on the west side of Liggett Road at the southern end. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeannie. Another one for you. The two roundabouts primarily in front of Costco do not function well now. How will they be improved to accommodate the increased truck traffic from FedEx?
Yeah, that's a great question. We have taken a very close look at the roundabout at Eiderman Road and 161, looking at the operations of it and making sure that the truck traffic can easily pass through the roundabout. We are going to be making some modifications that will result in operational improvements and safety improvements. We are actually reducing the size of the circle itself. We are going to be removing one of the travel lanes so that the roundabout is the right size at the right time. And then we will provide improvements in the future when needed. We believe that these improvements, these operational and safety improvements, will not only help the trucks, but also our general traveling public through that roundabout and ramp terminal.
Thank you, Jeannie. And once again, if we don't completely answer your question or don't answer it to your satisfaction, feel free to fill out that comment form again, and we will get you more details in the future via email. I have another question for you, Jeannie, from Matthew Petchin, who says the diagram shows the entrance for the farmhouse at Highland Croy is being relocated to Post Preserve Boulevard. Originally, there was some discussion about removing a portion of the road that is no longer needed, but with the farmhouse entrance, this does not seem possible. I thought that this property was already slated for further development. Would that new development also use this revised entrance? If not, is there a possibility to remove the unused road at a future time?
So I may have to have you go back and repeat a couple of parts of that question for me, but the answer to your question is yes. You are correct about the farmhouse down by Post Road, and that there are some current development proposals for that vacant piece of land. And yes, that farmhouse would be incorporated into the development itself. The new development, yes, will also be using the or that access point out onto Highland Croy Road. What was the next one? Oh, and the removal of the pavement down at Post Preserve and Post Road. And the answer to that question is yes, it is a possibility. That could be a future phase. We just need to see how that development proposal shakes out and the timing of it to make sure that that parcel has access at all times. Thank you. Did I get all of the questions? I'm not sure.
You answered everything that was asked, Jeannie, so thank you very much. But again, just submit your comment again if we didn't address everything that you were hoping to hear. Our next question, once again for you, Jeannie, is from Tina Diggs, who asks, how will the area where CSCC and OU traffic be impacted to get to and from?
So that's an interesting question. And yes, there will be some traffic impacts. What you will be able to find is that there will be message boards out on the roadway itself during the construction that will provide a lot of information on how the project will impact traffic. You'll also find information out on our website. We don't have all of the details yet on how the traffic will be impacted. That was part of the maintenance of traffic brief overview that Jim provided. And as those details get worked out, we will make that information available to Lindsay during the construction phase, and all of that. You'll check our social media channels, our website. We will use every form of communication that we can possibly use. Oh, you could also sign up for our e-news email updates, and you'll be able to get the information that way.
Thank you, Jeannie. And we have another question about the Highland Croy and Post Preserve Avenue. Will a traffic signal be installed on Highland Croy and Post Preserve for traffic in and out of the Post Preserve neighborhood? And this what comes from Bob Worrell.
So that goes back to the earlier question that we were asked. The answer to it is on opening day, we anticipate a stop condition for Post Preserve Boulevard at Highland Croy. In 2023, we are expecting to begin a detailed design phase for a roundabout at that intersection to make sure that the residents from Post Preserve neighborhood can gain access to Highland Croy safely if needed. Again, we will be watching that intersection very closely and coordinate the timing of that construction project with the needs of the neighborhood.
Thank you, Jeannie. And sticking with the same subject from Kumar Vamuri, I just want to read this question so that you can address his points. Is the entrance to Post Preserve from Highland Croy finalized? We have seen 3 different entrances in a recent plan by the Gordon Farms property presented to the city. Due to constant changes and multiple proposals on that property since many years, post-preserve residents are constantly under pressure about what is going to happen to the entrance. Any clarification on and assurances about this will be appreciated.
Yes, I can certainly appreciate the uneasiness of the access point into that neighborhood changing. The plan that we showed tonight is the plan if the city pursues construction of this access modification without the development of the Gordon parcel. If the Gordon parcel does develop, there is a slightly different roadway layout that is, it just accesses Highland Croy in a slightly different spot, but it is the same intent and meets all of the same design purposes of the design that we showed you tonight. What was the second question? I feel like I just forgot it. I'm sorry.
Let me go back to, it basically just said, we have seen 3 different entrances in a recent plan by the Gordon Farms property presented to the city. Due to constant changes and multiple proposals since many years, post-preserve residents are constantly under pressure.
Yeah, so the one thing that I do want to assure all of the residents of Post Preserve is that regardless of who builds that entrance off of Highland Croy, that landscape package that we worked with so diligently with those residents back in 2009 to develop and to gain consensus will still be in place. That is part of the project, no matter how it gets built, and whether it's, you know, part of the development or part of a city-driven project. That is irrelevant. That we will make sure that that entrance and that same aesthetic treatment is provided regardless of whether the development comes or not. That was the point I wanted to make. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeannie. And another question for you. This is from Matthew Ninen, who says, excellent presentation. Will the new traffic light at the Post Preserve Avenue have sensors to manage the lights?
So there is a traffic signal that will be at Highland Croy and Post Road. And yes, there will be detectors, traffic detectors out there to manage the traffic signal and to provide the most efficient services that we can for that intersection. Again, at Post Preserve Boulevard and Highland Croy, we anticipate on opening day to have a stop condition, and that in 2023, we will look at beginning design of a roundabout.
Thank you, Jeannie. We have a question from Charles E. Sanders Jr., who asks, will Stillhouse Lane be widened?
No, we will maintain its current width through the extension.
Thank you. Susan Swit says, we know so much more about native plants and their benefits. I'm excited to see all the tree diversity. However, in the entrance to Post Road, could big blue stem or another native could substitute for the non-native fountain grass. Small changes would make such an impact. We know more about the benefits. Natives provide carbon sequestration, erosion prevention, and can be extremely hardy and water-wise, and lower maintenance. The fountain grass is going to have that dead center in a few years. So many public projects that we use the best knowledge of are now problematic, invasive, so-called sterile purple loosestrife planting or masses of Japanese barberry, wildly successful trick habitat. Can't this landscape plan be updated to reflect best practices?
So it is certainly something that we could take another look at. I do want to emphasize that this current landscape plan that was selected and the plant palette that was selected was based on extensive public and neighborhood involvement at the time. I know that it's been a long time and I recognize that certainly, and it's something that we could take another look at with our current landscape architect to make sure that we are selecting the best plant material possible.
Thank you. Our next question is from John Warchansky. And again, I apologize if I'm butchering anyone's names. I am very disappointed to hear that a roundabout is being considered on Highland Croy Road and Post Preserve. I own the land across Highland Croy from this proposed intersection. To move the roundabout from Post Road up to Post Preserve intersection is not a good idea, and I think you will find the neighbors do not support it. Is this strictly a Dublin decision?
Thank you so much for that question. And no, of course, it is not strictly a City of Dublin decision, as the roadway is actually owned and maintained by Union County in that location. We will work with our partners to determine the best intersection solution there. Currently, as I said, the roundabout is planned for design in 2020, but since it's a plan and we don't have it currently in design, we can certainly take a look at the best intersection solution there.
Thank you, Jeannie. And I'm going to go back to Jim. Jim, if you happen to have a slide that addresses this, it would be helpful. Dennis Acosta has reached out again asking about the phases. He says, Jim mentioned the project would have 4 phases. What is the time frame for each phase and what is included in each phase? There are ramps, a new Post Preserve exit, a new bridge over Post Road, etc. If you have anything that could help answer that now, please let us know. Otherwise, we can get back to that later.
Yeah, like I said, the maintenance of traffic plans are being updated and revised. And one of the reasons why they're having to be significantly revised is because we are going from a roundabout to an intersection at Highland Croy, and also because the bridge is being widened. So it affects how the previous maintenance traffic plans, need a significant amount of update for the changes in the work. So no, I'm afraid I can't. I don't have, the 4 phases laid out, and I certainly don't have it in front of me. So I'm afraid I can't really answer that question. So that's a good question, and that's one that we need to respond to, I think, at a later time. Once we get the maintenance of traffic more finalized over the next few weeks and make our first submittal to ODOT for review, we'll probably be in a much better position to answer that question.
Thank you, Jim, and thank you, Dennis, for clarifying your question there. We will get you answers at a later date. Our next question is from Shelley Bird. This is for Jeannie. How close is the new Post Preserve entrance to Tullymore? I couldn't tell from the slide. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. It's actually pretty far away. It's about 5,000 feet, so just under a mile.
Thank you, Jeannie. Okay, our next question is from Scott Shepard. It is disappointing to lose the Post Preserve entrance. Since Highland Croy is so busy now, can a roundabout be added, which is mentioned, to the new Post Preserve exit? Can ODOT look at it again? Maybe reduce some of the truss and fences to allow for better southbound turns onto Highland Croy. If no roundabout, assume there would be a traffic light since a southbound turn into Highland Croy are difficult. Lastly, what can be done on the roads by Carey Middle School to help accommodate increased traffic cut through to Tullymore from Post Preserve due to the closing of the current Post Preserve road entrance?
So yes, thank you again for this question. We are looking at a roundabout solution at Highland Croy and Post Preserve. It will open in 2023 with a stop condition, with the roundabout beginning design in 2023. So the same year that it opens, we will begin design of a roundabout. We will be actively monitoring that intersection, and we will determine the best timing for construction of any intersection improvement there based on how the intersection operates once it's actually open. let's see, if no roundabout, assume there would be a traffic signal. It could be a traffic signal at Highland Croy and Post Preserve Boulevard. I do believe that the long-term plan for Highland Croy at this point is a series of roundabouts, smaller roundabouts that we know operate well and provide the safety benefits of the roundabout on Highland Croy. And so that would be definitely Dublin's preference at this point. What can be done to on the roads by car? So around Tullymore. So that goes back to the first question, or the first time I talked about this, about the intersection of Stillhouse and the layout of those roads extending over to Highland Croy. They were designed the way that they are with intent and purpose to mitigate those traffic impacts so that no one particular road bears the brunt of this relocated entrance. It is our intent to keep the traffic, the through traffic, cut through traffic on the arterial roadway system and not through the interior neighborhood. Will there be some? Sure. Are we going to do everything that we can to make sure that that doesn't happen and that neighborhood does not become, you know, that extra path over to that neighborhood school? Absolutely. That goes to the curves in the road. It goes to the intersections, and those things to make sure that we are not advertising that it provides another path over to that school, or, you know, to points further east, even beyond the school.
Thank you, Jeannie. Our next question is from Jim Pack, who asks, with the large distribution center being constructed on Industrial Parkway, how many trucks are anticipated to be going through this interchange on a daily basis? And will the signal at westbound 33 and 161 be adjusted to keep this intersection clear? Overall, nice project. And I believe you have this information, Jeannie.
Yeah, so yes, there is a large distribution center, the FedEx Center, that is located on an Industrial Parkway. And yes, there will be a significant amount of truck traffic. I cannot remember the exact number of trucks. I don't know if Bill Narducci from Union County has that information, who could share that with us at this time.
Yeah, Jeannie, I could take that. There's around, I don't have the exact number, but there was somewhere between 350 and 400 of the larger trucks planned for this facility. The majority of them will be coming in during extremely off-peak, meaning between midnight and 5 a.m. So they're really off-peak in the middle of the night, delivering the goods to the facility for sorting. But that's the number of trucks that will be coming into the facility. Obviously, we'll have traffic from that facility throughout the day, but the large trucks coming in will be between 12 and 5, and it's around 350 to 400 trucks.
Thanks, Bill. And then to answer the second part of that question, will the signal at the westbound 33 off-ramp and Highland Croy, which is being relocated to the Highland Croy intersection, be adjusted to keep this intersection clear? And the answer to that question is we will optimize this traffic signal timings based on the type of traffic present, to make sure that that intersection stays as clear as possible, with the majority of that truck traffic traveling through the intersection at the off-peak periods. I would anticipate less impact to the Post Road 161 corridor traffic. That's the word I was looking for. And being able to dedicate more time to processing the truck traffic.
Thank you, Jeannie. We have a question from Zobita Cruz, who says, I am still a bit confused about if there will be a traffic light or not on the new entrance of Post Preserve, as left turns from Post Preserve will become dangerous out of our community. Please clarify.
So thank you. On opening day, the relocated entrance from Post Preserve Boulevard out onto Highland Croy will be a stop sign. It will be a stop condition. In 2023, the same year that the new intersection opens, we anticipate beginning design of a roundabout for that new intersection. We will watch that intersection very closely, monitor the safety aspect of it to make sure that we respond and get that actual construction project timed to accommodate any safety concerns that may arise.
Thank you, Jeannie, and thanks for that question. We are hoping to put together some frequently asked questions, and that seems to be one that we're hearing a lot tonight. So if you check back on the same webpage that you're on right now, within the next week or so, we will have all of this information on there, the presentation, the video, and we'll put some FAQs together so that you'll be able to get that information easily in the future. We still do have a couple of more questions and about 14 more minutes in the meeting. So if you would like to participate, you're welcome to click submit a public comment below the live stream box and join the conversation. Jeannie, I'm going to direct this question to you from Bill Razor, who says, can you put on record any current proposals the city has received for the Gordon property? Do you know of any pending proposals for the Gordon property that would impact this plan?
Thank you for that question. So there are current proposals that are on the record for the Gordon property. They would be through the planning website. They have been through the Planning and Zoning Commission process, and you can see the application package and submission that was presented to our Planning and Zoning Commission there. The one proposal that the most recent proposal that we have seen, we have worked we have worked with the developer fairly extensively to get the layout of the roads on the Gordon parcel to meet the design intent of the roadway layout that was shown tonight during this meeting. It is a little different. It is not vastly different. The access point out onto Highland Croix shifts a little bit to the north, I believe. But from an overall operations and function standpoint, it's the same.
Thank you, Jeannie. I appreciate that. And you can find the P&Z information on our website there at dublinohiousa.gov as well. I have another question, and I will give this one to Jim. This is from Jeff Reimer, who says, given the traffic issues resulting from the two roundabouts currently on 161, won't an additional roundabout at 161 and Cosgray further exacerbate traffic? Why can't a modification of the existing traffic signal array provide better traffic flow?
You know, Jeannie, I might have to give that question to you. I have not been involved with the Cosgray roundabout.
That's okay. That's fine. Thank you. And again, I might call on my partners from Union County to help me answer this question as well. This was the decision to install a roundabout at 161 and Cosgray was part of the overall development plan of the 161 corridor and the Dublin Green development. Hi, Jeff. I just saw you pop back in. Did you want to provide some input here?
Sure. A couple of things. I think what
Mr.
Reimer's talking about is the what we call a temporary signal at Cosgray and 161. Several years ago, the developer's engineer, who's responsible for their traffic study, recommended the roundabout solution at that intersection as a part of the development. And that's something that we partnered together with City of Dublin, ODOT, Franklin County, certainly our office, and found a funding plan or funding splits to be able to build that project. But the problem we have now is the developer backed out of his funding responsibility for that intersection. So that's why that temporary signal sits as it currently is. It's not ideal, and as the traffic increases in the future, that temporary signal will be even less adequate. So we're trying to move forward to figure out a solution to get that roundabout built. But we have a severe funding gap caused by the developer at this time.
Thank you, Jeff. Our next question, and I believe this would be for you to answer, Jeannie, is from Shelley Bird. What about residents trying to enter Highland Croy from Tullymore? Are you planning to address this in the same way you said that the post-preserve entrance will be looked at in 2023?
So the intersection of Highland Croy at Tullymore is currently not on our radar for further improvements at this point. That's not to say that it couldn't happen. We watch all of our intersections around the city. We monitor crash data on a monthly basis. And if a safety concern were to pop up, we will certainly address that as quickly as possible through our CIP process, which is our capital improvements program. And we would put together a project sheet and demonstrate the need, and then have that project discussed and determined its funding priority.
Thank you, Jeannie. And Rob Honor clarified his question from earlier, so we'll come back to this and see if we can answer this any better than we did the first time. Sorry for the clarifying question, he says. At the point where Springview meets Post Preserve Avenue, it appears that you are planning an intersection, not a curve.
Oh.
Are there plans for further development and to be able to tie into additional streets? Thank you for clarifying, Rob. And Jim or Jeannie, if you have any insight to this matter, please jump in, please.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, so the reason that there is an intersection there at what would be Post Lake Lane and Stillhouse Lane, Springview, excuse me, is because, yes, that is meant, that intersection is meant to further serve additional public roadways on the Gordon site as it develops.
Mhm.
Thank you, Jeannie. We have 2 more questions and about 7 more minutes, so we'll get through these 2 questions and then wrap up for tonight. But if you're listening and you still want to submit comments, you can do so on the website for the next 30 days and probably even beyond. So feel free to keep submitting questions, but we just have 2 more that we're going to answer at this time. This question is from Shannon McCarthy. Can you speak to your noise abatement plans, as this larger intersection and truck traffic will make Post Preserve Boulevard not so much of a calming preserve any longer? Jim or Jeannie, I'm not sure which one would be best to answer that.
So
Rick,
I'll go ahead.
Okay.
I'll go ahead and I'll take this one again. So the noise abatement, there was a noise study that was performed as part of this project to determine whether noise abatement was necessary. And what we found is that there is one receptor, the farmhouse down on the southern end of the Gordon parcel, that white farmhouse, that was an impacted receptor, but it was an impacted receptor with or without this project being in place. And because there's one receptor that is likely to not remain in place for the foreseeable future as the Gordon parcel develops, we are not planning to install any noise abatement. And Jim or Rick, if I've left anything out or my answer was not complete, if you could please jump in here, I'd appreciate it.
Jeannie, the only thing that I would add is that the study that was done indicated that in the design year, none of the receptors beyond that farmhouse reaches the level that would require any type of abatement in that area.
Okay. Okay, and I think that concludes the questions that we have for this evening. Again, if you would like to submit comments, you can continue to do so on the website. Jeannie will talk about some next steps and conclude us for the evening. And thank you all for participating. Dozens of questions that came in, and we just really appreciate the engagement that this community is known for. And it's been a pleasure hearing your questions and your thoughts and opinions. Jeannie.
Yes, thank you very much. Appreciate everyone again. Your time and your effort and your attention to this project has been deeply appreciated by the project staff. We really appreciate you participating in this virtual meeting. This is actually our very first virtual public information meeting like this. So I was thrilled to see the participation that we've had tonight. And we really appreciate your attentiveness to us. As a recap, I'd like to go over that the next steps for this project are to finalize the design and finish the acquisition process. Construction is anticipated to begin in 2022, and you will see notices as traffic patterns begin to change. Please check the city's website, www.dublinohiousa.gov, and our social media channels for updates. And you can also sign up for our e-news to receive email updates. And then next slide, Jim.
Sure.
We've covered a lot of material tonight, and we know that it may take some time to review and process and to think about what your thoughts and your comments really are. We want to give you that time to be able to carefully consider the project. We will post a recording of this meeting and the slides we presented tonight to our current web page for reference, so that as you think about the project and questions come up and you thought maybe they addressed it, maybe we didn't in the presentation, you'll be able to go back and watch this presentation again for reference. Please, if you would like to send any additional comments or questions, please use the same webpage that you used tonight, or mail in your comments in the next 30 days or by September 25th, 2020. If you have already submitted a comment, you may need to refresh the webpage in order to get the comment form to come back up. You are welcome to submit more than one. Again, we really appreciate your time and our work, and are looking forward to working with you as we work our way through this project process. Thank you so much, and we hope you have a wonderful evening.
Hey there, folks. This is Kyle.